Hey, great, you made it. So you want to find out how I make my mead. Why don't we go on into the kitchen and I'll show you what we need to get started. Let's go. So mead is one of the oldest drinks and one of the easiest drinks to make. Really all you need is honey, yeast, and water, and some thyme, and something to mix it up in. So today we're going to be making 5 gallons of mead. You put in 3 pounds of honey per gallon. So I went over to Costco and I picked up 3 of these 5-pound containers of wildflower honey. I like it, it works well for me. Then I went over to the local brewery store, Bell's Brewery, and I picked up some yeast. This is champagne yeast, so this is going to produce a drier mead, which would also result in a higher alcohol content mead. Picked up 2.5 gallon jugs of filtered water. We're going to be using our container here to mix it up into. We've got a food grade container along with an airlock. I'll be showing you how to use that. It's really simple. That keeps all of the bad stuff from getting into the mead while it's fermenting. And what's real important is that we sanitize everything. I like to use Star San sanitizer. Works well for me. There are other really good ones out on the market that you can use also. So some of the other things that you'll probably want. We've got a siphon here that I use to get it out once everything is ready to move from one container to another, which is called racking the mead. Once everything is finished, you're going to want some bottles to put it into. So I'll put it into standard size wine bottles here, but I'll also put some in. I've got these beer bottles, and I'll use these as well. Need some corks to cork everything up. Once everything is done, and we'll use this in another video, we've got potassium metabisulfate, and we've also got some potassium sorbate, which is a stabilizer. We'll be using those. Corks for the wine bottles, and caps for the beer bottles. And then you need something to put the corks in and to put the caps on. Now additionally, if you want to find out what your alcohol content is going to be, you're going to want one of these. So this will tell us, we'll get into it a little bit later on, but this will tell us exactly what our alcohol content should end up coming out to be. It's usually pretty close. And this is called a hydrometer. So our first step is going to be to sanitize everything. We need everything to be completely sanitary. We don't want any bad bacteria getting into our mead due to cross-contamination. So that's where we're going to wash everything first, and then we're going to use our Star San to go ahead and sanitize it. I'm going to rinse it well. And we're going to go ahead and add some sanitizer here. Now in the blue bottle here is just a $1 spray bottle. I've already gone ahead and mixed up some water with some sanitizer in here, so I can use this as a spray bottle to help spray things down, sanitize them as well. We have our airlock, we want to sanitize that. Stirring spoon, and make sure that gets fully sanitized also. It's going to be harder, so we're going to spray this down. Now make sure that anything that your entire working area, that you're spraying that down as well. Now we're going to rinse this out after we've sanitized it. Just get the excess bubbles out of it. I'm going to give it one more spray down around all the edges here. Now let's go sanitize our other working area. Then with our blue bottle, we're going to spray down our work area here and just wipe it down, sanitize it. Great. And this is our bucket that we're going to be putting everything in. Now to make the honey easier to pour in, we're going to fill up the sink with hot water. And we're going to put our bottles of honey in here. This is going to help it to become easier to pour. Let's go ahead and lay them down right in here. Since they're brand new, they're completely sealed. There's no water that will get in there. But the hot water will make it a whole lot easier to pour when we're ready to put it in. Now, while the honey is warming up in the sink, we're going to give that about 15 minutes in the sink, and it's almost done. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and take one of these 2.5 gallons and empty it in. And we're not going to put all the rest of this in. We put in some. So we're only going to put about half of the second one in. The reason why is we want to be able to get our spoon down in there and stir it up as soon as we put our honey in, which we're going to do in just a second. Okay, with our honey all warmed up, I'm going to open up the containers and just dump them in. That with each one of the containers. The honey smells really good. And then I will end up taking the empty bottles, putting the lids back on them, tipping them upside down and letting the remaining honey fall into it. Now we'll take our spoon, stir it. Now we'll add the rest of our water. Okay, so hey, we're almost ready to seal it up, but before we do that, we need to add in the yeast. Now we're going to add the yeast to some warmer water first to activate it, and then we'll add it here and we'll get it all completely sealed up. In the meantime, though, we'll go ahead and I'm going to put the lid on. We don't need to seal it yet, but we want to be able just to make sure that nothing accidentally falls into it. So let's go ahead and I almost forgot, is the yeast is going to need something to feed off of besides the sugar. So to do that, we're going to throw in some raisins. I'm just going to break some of these raisins open before I pitch them in. That will give some good nutrients for the yeast to keep that active and going. And we're just going to go ahead and pitch these raisins right into our honey water, our must. And now, let's activate the yeast. So we boiled some water. We're going to wait until this gets down to about 95 degrees. And then at that point there, we're going to go ahead and put our yeast into the water, mix it up, cover it, give it about 15 minutes to activate. And at that point there, then we'll toss it in with our honey and water and raisins. Now, before we add our yeast, we want to get a reading to see if we can get a rough idea as to what the alcohol content of this will end up being. So, for that, we're going to use our hydrometer. And we're going to, I've already sterilized everything, so I'm going to take just one of these here, and I'm going to suck out some of this. Put it in here. That amount. I'm going to take our hydrometer here, stick it in here, a little spin just to get off any extra air bubbles. So where that is right there, that shows us we're going to get about 15% alcohol out of this once everything's done. Okay, so according to our yeast packet, when we're activating it, it states that the temperature to reactivate the yeast is between 95 and 98 degrees. So right now we are at 95 degrees. We're going to go ahead and mix this in. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to take some saran wrap here, plastic wrap, cover it. We're going to let this sit for about 15 minutes. So this is our airlock. We're going to fill it up with some water. Put the lid back on. I'll just go ahead and put that into the top of our lid. This will allow the carbonation, as it's fermenting, to escape through here. It'll force the air here, but it won't allow any bacteria to come back up this way here to get into our mead. So our final step in the process is we're going to take our activated yeast here, and we're just going to pitch it into here. After pitching the yeast into your mixture, make sure to turn the top here so that as you lift up with the handle, the top isn't, the airlock is not in your way. And then go ahead and seal it down. Now, we're going to move this downstairs into the basement, into a cool, dry area. It's going to take about a month and a half before we are ready to siphon off or rack the mead off of the must from this container into our 5-gallon carboy. We'll continue to watch the airlock, so we'll watch, this is going to bubble, and it's going to continue to bubbling for the next 30, 60 days. And when it gets to the point that it's done bubbling, that's when we're going to go ahead and rack it over to the secondary fermentation. This is the primary fermentation. We'll move it over, get it off of the dead yeast down the bottom. That'll be the secondary fermentation at that point there. So it's going to take a little while. We're going to watch it regularly. About every couple days we're going to go down and give it a couple quick turns just to help loosen up the air and get any air that's in there out of there. We don't want air in our container. We're not going to keep taking the top off. We're going to leave it sealed like this here until it is done bubbling. Stay tuned. So again, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. So that's how I make my mead. If you have any suggestions or comments of how you do things differently, I'd love to hear from them in the comments below. In the meantime, if you do me a big favor, click the thumbs up, like button below. And you can also click the subscribe button. You'll be notified when I put out new content. Also, if you click the bell icon, that will you'll get an email that lets you know when I've uploaded content also. In the meantime, thanks for hanging out with me. We'll catch you next time.